I want to show you a couple clips that are representative of this Democrat media collusion to try to avoid an honest reckoning, an honest celebration. And I give credit to Eric Erickson, great broadcaster, writer. I recommend his Substack to you. Eric rounded up some sound bites that I think are extremely instructive, extremely instructive. Here is John Ossoff, who represents Georgia in the United States Senate, where Eric's from Georgia, Democrat, on television on Sunday, talking about comparing in a way that I hope he wouldn't have done had it not been live. People say things live, but it's reflective of the mindset I'm talking about. Here's John Ossoff, Democratic Senator from Georgia. This is S2, please. Comparing two things that should not be compared. S2, please.
Violence targeting political activists, no matter how strongly we may disagree with their views, is completely unacceptable, and it's incompatible with a free society and a flourishing democracy. And we should be united in recognizing that for politicians, for the state, for the government to use official power to intimidate critics, to silence those who speak in ways the government doesn't like, is also fundamentally inconsistent with a free society and a flourishing democracy.
Now, look, I agree with John Ossoff. Obviously, no one wants political assassinations, and I agree with him that the government should not be trying to intimidate private companies on the basis of speech. But to equate them, to compare them around the time that Charlie Kirk is being laid to rest by the country, it's just representative, and of course not being challenged by the interviewer. This is a problem, okay, and it's a problem of not just of tone. It's a problem not just of partisanship. It's a problem because, I'll say again, Democrats must understand what's happening here, why people are so upset about what happened, okay? Now, here's another one. This is Caitlin Collins of CNN talking to Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat. Once again, imagine if on a day around the time that someone like Charlie Kirk, who was, if it were a Democrat, was being laid to rest, imagine if a Republican House member said this kind of thing, and how the press would react. Here's Caitlin Collins of CNN with Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota.
And no one is saying that you have to whitewash what he did, or that you have to defend what he said or the views that he held. But regardless of those views, do you believe the timing of saying that the day after that he was assassinated, the comments there, do you regret the timing of those comments?
Do you think Charlie regretted mocking George Floyd's death as his 7-year-old pled to the world on what happened to her child? I think saying what Charlie did and who he was has nothing to do with his assassination. It has nothing to do with the timing of his assassination. It is a matter of record.
I ask because the way former President Obama put it, he also said he thought that Charlie Kirk's ideas and views were wrong.
Yes.
But he said, and I'm quoting Obama now, we have to extend grace to people during their period of mourning and shock. Does he have a point?
Yeah, I extend grace to his wife and kids. I cannot imagine what they are going through. But the reality is that his wife sat by him as he said those things and did not tell him that these are human beings who you are calling garbage, who you are saying they don't have the brain power because they were born in a different skin color. I do not understand how we are okay as a society with people who say that about our fellow Americans, a fellow human being, and regard them as a hero. I'm sorry, I don't see it.
Makes me so sad to hear that. And again, I don't like to take someone's statement in a live interview or even a speech and say this represents exactly what they meant to say. People say stuff, it's live. But I feel like she meant what she said, and it's representative of a mindset in the media and amongst Democrats to say, sure, it's sad for his family, but the more important thing is to single out things he said or didn't say, and no fact checking. I just asked people on the left, people in the media, to think about if that were a Democrat who was killed, if that were a Republican saying these things on that occasion, right around the day in Arizona where he was being memorialized. This is a reaction to the assassination of a 31-year-old father of two who was so important to tens of millions of people. And now we have to diagnose, we have to break down, we have to dissect why. Why do they feel compelled on this occasion to say what they said? Is it out of principle? Is there something emotional, psychological going on? How can we be, as a country, so divided about this? And I listen so closely when I hear Democrats say, well, it's, of course, we condemn violence and there's no room in our society for political assassination. But, and there's a but, always a but, to say, well, but he was a bad guy, or he said things he shouldn't have said, or he helped Donald Trump get elected. This country has to be introspective for our kids, for our future, to say, what can we learn from the reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination? Not from the assassination itself, although there are lessons from that to be sure, of course. But what about the reaction? Are Democrats and the media proud of their reaction? Are the press proud of the way this has been covered? I'm such a close reader, I dare say sophisticated reader, of the New York Times and the Washington Post. Look every day since Charlie was killed, how they're covering it. What are the stories they choose to emphasize? What's the spin they put on it? What's the framing they put on it? And are they eager to understand, for instance, the motives of the killer? And you think back to Carrie, who we played for you, and her analysis of the coverage. Part of what troubles people is, if this were a Democrat killed by someone for their speech, for their views, there'd be a lot more coverage of the connections of and the motives of, as we can divine them, the killer. There's no doubt about that. The press doesn't want to cover that. The Democrats don't want to talk about it. And the press doesn't make the Democrats talk about it. Okay? There'd be a lot more coverage of all that Charlie accomplished. There'd be a lot more coverage of why people felt so passionately about him. As I was in the arena, the stadium in Arizona before the event, as I said, lots of people came up to me, talked to me about the show, and talked to me about my appearances on Charlie's show. And three of them in particular told me, I sat with them, I had the luxury of time before the event started. Three of them told me, all separately, stories about their relationship with Charlie. How much he helped them, how much time he made for them. One guy lived 2 blocks away, had his own organization. And no matter how big Charlie got, and by the time of his death, of course, he was a friend of and a conspirator with the president, the vice president, the Speaker of the House, collaborating on some of the most complicated public policy and political matters of the day. And even then, he made time for these folks. Listen to, as I recommend everyone does, the podcasts that are being done on Charlie's platform in his absence by people like Tucker Carlson to learn more about why they loved him so much. And what emerges is a portrait of a guy who you could disagree with politically, but a man of an incredible work ethic, an incredible heart. And the Democrats don't want to confront that. They don't want to confront the fact that this guy was not just talented and ambitious, but cared about people. We saw the report that he reached out to Van Jones of CNN, something Charlie and I talked about, the comments that Van Jones made about Charlie right before he was killed. He reached out to Van Jones and said, let's have a conversation. And of course, Van Jones' attitude was, maybe not. This great man who was killed for his beliefs has led to more division in his death because the country can't come around to the common cause of not just denouncing political assassination. That ain't hard to do. The common cause is to say to your fellow Americans, we grieve for you. We grieve for his family. We understand that this was a man who had accepted Jesus as personal savior and lived a life meant to make that central to how he did things personally and professionally. There has been much coverage of Erica Kirk's comments over the weekend. The extraordinary act of forgiveness that she gave the alleged killer of her husband. I'll say again, if that were a Democrat doing that, would have been a lot more coverage, would have been a lot more discussion of the extraordinary courage and grace and generosity of Erica Kirk. And for people like Carrie, just an everyday American watching all of this, to see attempted cover-up of Joe Biden's decline, no change in press coverage, no change in attitude, and now to see what for so many people is a searing event. You know, Dr. King was killed when the Kennedys were killed. There was no video. There was no daily program of a host 2 hours a day coming right into the homes and on the phones of people. There is an intimate connection for so many to Charlie Kirk. And now people have been forced to watch him being killed. This is a traumatic event. And the media and the Democrats are treating it like a conversation starter. I'm no doubt that many Democrats are sorry about what happened. But they need to appreciate why, for people like Carrie, the coverage now, the normal bias, the normal Trump derangement syndrome-driven coverage, it's just too much. So now let me tell you a story. It's about a guy named Leo Grillo. He was on a road trip and he came across a dog. It was a Doberman who was severely underweight and clearly in a lot of trouble. Leo rescued that Doberman and he gave him a name. He called him Delta. Sadly, though, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help, which gave Leo an inspiration. He started something called Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. Delta Rescues saved thousands of dogs, cats, and horses from the wilderness. They always provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, and a good home. This dedication and everlasting love for animals, that's Leo's mission, and it's Leo's legacy. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions to operate from people like all of us. So if you want caring for these animals to be part of your own legacy, speak with your estate planner because there are tax savings and estate planning benefits too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out now the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and to speak with an advisor. We call a dog man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. So please, right now, visit deltarescue.org to learn more. Again, go for more information to deltarescue.org.